Okay, I'm gonna do a little walk through my book for each of you. I'm gonna send you the documents, but if I can kind of walk you through my books for my students, it'll help you understand how I do my grading, because it's different, because I do standards-based grading and I want to kind of see how I am approaching it. So here's the workbook. It's about this thick. All right, it's got everything for the school year. Now my chemistry books are broken into two parts. I have notes, and then I have coursework in the back. So the notes, they don't turn in. Everything back here is what they'll work on. And I treat my chemistry and my biology classes differently, like how we do the work. Biology is more of a workbook, and we kind of work through it together. The chemistry is we'll work together in our notes, and then they'll go back and they'll work on stuff later after we've done labs and we've worked on things. They can build what we call proofs. So that's a little different than my biology class. All right, so when I open up my page, this is laminated, and the back is laminated as well, so it keeps it, the kids don't destroy it all year. All right, and I've got two QR codes that leads to all their resources, and these links are found like throughout the book, like right down here again. Like, so every unit, they don't have to come back to the front page, but if they want to, it's all here. Now, the resources that I teach with my class, there's 5 of them. I have phenomenons, I have online textbooks, the notes, assignments, and then learning videos. So I've got 5 different things to help them learn the material. All right, and then down here I've got my schedule. So my schedule is a PDF. It gives a breakdown of every day of the school year and basically says what we're doing that day. So they can actually see in 3 weeks when they go on vacation what they're doing that day. So you can scan this from the PDF, and I'll probably include a link of the schedule. It isn't up to date. I've been messing with it, but it'll change as I go throughout the year. All right, now here is a list of everything that they've done, and I've put everything in little boxes so kids can check stuff off as we go. All right, now for term 1, we have 2 units. Term 2, I have 3. Term 3, I have 4, and then term 4, I have 3 units. And that includes the final unit, which goes over everything, okay? And unit 0, I started with 0 because we haven't really started ecology yet, but this is just skills that they need to know, just basic science skills, all right? And you can kind of see quickly kind of what we're covering. And these are like levels. So in ecosystems, I have 3 levels. Populations, I have 4 levels. Biochemistry, I have 3 levels. Now I broke the unit into 3 pieces, and I treat each piece as like a learning chunk. And so when they are working on their stuff, I'm checking atoms and enzymes, and then I'm going to check properties of water, and then macromolecules. So I come back and look at their work at least 3 times before they take the test, and we get feedback. All right, now in the front here, I've outlined my standards-based grading and how I grade. So I break it into 2 parts. 50% of their grade is like assignments, and the other 50% of the grade is tests. I know some teachers are pretty adamant about not testing, and they want to do it differently, and that's totally up to them. I do tests because I think it's still an important skill that in high school you should be developing. If you're in trades or if you're in going to college, you should be getting used to taking tests, all right? But for each of these, students can fix their grade at any time, all right? Now let me explain how my proficiency scale works, and I'll explain how kids can upgrade. So if it's missing, obviously it's an M, but if it's 1 through 4, okay, it's broken into 4 categories. So emerging, approaching, proficient, exceeding. All right, so for a kid, our goal in our class is to be at a proficient level. I actually have a sign on my whiteboard. It's in vinyl lettering. It says all students will learn at high levels. And I actually asked my class, how many of you feel like you're doing this? And I only had 2 kids in each of my 8 periods raise their hand. Of 200 kids, I've only had maybe 8 kids actually feel like they're learning at a high level. And so I had to rethink how I was just doing a letter-based grade system. So I went to standards-based, which helps them understand, well, what is high? Our goal is to be proficient. It's not necessarily to be exceeding. We have to have a room for growth, but we want all kids to aim for 3s. So whenever we're doing our grading scale, we're aiming for 3s, not 1s and 2s. But if you want an A, right, you got to have a 4. So this is the conversion down below that I've signaled out. So if you're getting 2s or lower, you're still failing. If you're getting 3s and 2s, you're probably going to get in the D range. If you want 4 and A, you have to have all 4s. And if you're somewhere in between that, getting a B. All right, you can kind of see how that scale works. And students can fix their grade at any time. So for example, if they're on science skills and I gave them a 2, that means, a 2, that means they are almost proficient, but they're not a 1, but they're getting there. And so they can fix their levels at any time. So if they're at a 1, they can get it up to a 4 if they wanted to. Even if it's 3 weeks late, as long as kids are putting in the effort, I will recognize their effort, okay? Quizzes are also included because they're formative and they help me see where students are. So formative and just basic work for the course is 50% of the grade, and then the other 50% is tests. Now I offer doing a correction, okay? And I have a model right here that they can do a QR code and see what that looks like. So they don't get confused on doing corrections. And I give them back a 1/4 point for every point they miss. So it's not a point back, it's a 1/4 point. So it's something, but not nothing. So if they're failing, we can help get them up. The students that are struggling the worst and got the worst scores, it's definitely gonna help them. But if you already have like a 90% on the test, it will barely bump your grade up, okay? This is for those that are really struggling. That's why I do these corrections. All right, now here's my rubric. All right, I broke it in from levels, and then quizzes and tests, they're automated. They're all on Canvas. But my levels, they're broken into 2 halves. So it's basically participation, getting it done. And then there's also a second portion on quality. So if they have no evidence, all right, they're getting a 1. Even though if they finished everything, they got everything done, but their answers aren't very good and they're not justifying it well, I can come back here and say, well, you're at a 1. Even though you got it done, you're still at a 1. If you're at 2, you've got 80% done or less, between 50 to 80. And then you're inadequately. So you're getting closer to being adequate, but not quite, okay? But this is no, adequate, and then once they've adequately justified all of their answers and they have everything done, the phenomena, the textbook, the reading, the notes, the assignments, they are at a 3. Now to get a 4, they have to have everything done for 3s and then do the exceeding assignment, okay, which is found in each of the levels, okay? And I'll show you where that is, and it's listed out. Actually, I'll do it right now. I'll just show you. So for each section, so this is the science of life. This is the page that I grade and that I put into the computer. But this is for them to kind of keep track of their grade, okay? So right here, this is their standards that they have to do. So for level 1, here's everything they have to do. Now, science skills is the biggest level in the entire book because there's just so much to cover. The rest of it's a little easier, but they have to pick a science fair project and pass it off with me in order to get that up to a 4. All right, I do have simpler projects that they can get half credit for that they can do for science fair, so it's an alternative. But if they pick their own project and they do it for the school year, then they can get a 4 on this assignment as long as they pass it off with me. All right, and all of these 4 assignments are going to be done on separate pieces of paper. This is going to be stuff outside the course material. So let me go back here. All right, and so right here I've got it listed out, my rubric, to how I grade their stuff. All right. And then quizzes, if they're under 50, they're a 1. Between 50 to 74, they're at approaching. And then proficient is going to be, it gets kind of gray when you start to do the math, but they're not, if they're at 100%, they're exceeding the goal, okay? And if they're at 75 to 99%, then they are going to be approaching perfection, basically. But if kids are getting in the 90% range, they're definitely going to be getting an A, right? Because it's in the 90s, they're probably closer to that. So it gets a little hard to do standards-based grading with this, but if they're scoring high, then their grade's going to probably end up with an A, okay? Now down here, I have criteria for achieving an A and a criteria for earning a C. So in the course, if you can earn an A, the lowest test score you can have is 82%. But you have to complete a test corrections for all the tests and get everything up to a 4. So this kind of helps give kids an idea. If they get above an 82, like if they're getting 85% of the test, they can still get an A, right? Now, if kids that are really struggling and they're like, I just want a C, well, this is how you earn a C. The lowest test score you can have is 35%. I know that's really low. But you got to remember, this class is more than just a test. It is all of the coursework wrapped up into it. So just say they did all the coursework, they get the concepts, but they don't do well on tests. Well, if they do a test correction and they do all the level 4 assignments, they can still earn a C. So there's still room to get a D in there, right? So the level for getting through the course is actually pretty low for students that are barely getting through. All right, but it's also hard to get an A because you really have to put in extra effort to get there. Okay. All right, and then I have my standards alignment. So here's all the units, and then here's the breakdown. I'm probably going to add some extra ones in here because I'm duplicating. I just try to put everything in here once, but you may see duplicates of numbers, but I'll probably have 2.7 scattered into these other ones as well. And then here's a link to the standards if I ever need it to show them if parents or anyone wants to know. So This is where students are going to live. Not really in these front pages. That's what we look at the beginning of the year, but the rest of it is in this sections. Okay, so this is Unit 0. The first level is science skills, and then with the study of biology and characteristics of life, and then they have a test. All of their tests are going to be out of 4, and they're automatically graded. So some students may end up with a 3.3 or a 2.1. So here it shows where they can put their test in. It also helps them remind them, how do I improve my grade? They complete a quiz correction for quizzes, and tests, they can complete a test correction, and they can order a quarter point back. I didn't emphasize it for levels because kids can move up levels whenever they want to. All right, so let me flip through here and show you a little bit. Here is all of the standards that they need to know. So for the first one, it says, you can think of it as an I can statement in front of each of the terms. So like, I can apply the scientific method and its steps to solve problems. I can apply experimental design concepts to set up a proper experiment. And these are the things they have to have in there. All right. And down below, there's 4 assignments, but as long as they get the chunk done and they're checking it off as they go, right? They can say, oh, I understand this. This is what's going to be on the test. This is what Mr. Flynn wants me to know, etc. Okay, now if you come through here, this is where the work begins. So in every level, I have a phenomenon that will watch a video and I'll have them answer some questions. We'll have a class discussion. They'll learn it on their own. They'll do some textbook reading on the online or the textbook. This is found on the resources. The online textbook is shortened, and this textbook is much longer. So this is more thorough. This is a condensed version for differentiation. They have to write out the definitions in their own words. I try to have them do it in their own terms. Okay, they have to answer these questions. We'll have a class discussion. I normally don't do fill in the blank notes, but in this section I did to kind of shorten things up and get to the point. And if you notice, I have here criteria. It's like notes, assignments, more notes, assignments, right? And underneath the learning resources, it has them categorized under these headings so they can find the stuff that they're missing when they're not in class. And see the notes here, we are going to fill all of this in. Now, I have it all made. It's online, so if kids miss class, they can fill it out whenever they can. And then that's the end of, and then this will be the last assignment. That's level 1. Now, this one's a huge level. It's massive. It's going to take us 2 weeks or maybe even 3. The next units are a lot quicker. So we're going to have a phenomenon of giant sea spiders. There's going to be some reading, short vocabulary, and then we're going to do a assignment, like a presentation in class, and kids have to, actually it's right here, the assignment's right here. We do a presentation on scientists, so we get to familiarize ourselves with like biologists and what they study. And the kids have to create their own presentations. And then down here I have a quiz, levels 1 and 2, and this is only taken in class. So if they earn below a 3, they must complete a quiz correction, because the goal here is that they're aiming for proficiency. So if they're below proficiency, they have to come back and retake this quiz, not retake it, sorry, do a correction. Once they give the correction to me, I will actually bump their score. If they got like a 2.1, I'll give them a 4 if they do a correction. So even if someone gets a 3.6 or a 3.5, they're doing well, they're above a 3, and they want an A, do a correction and get it up to a 4. I'll basically bump it right up for them, okay? And then there's level 3 is actually pretty short, but a lot of vocab. And then there's a infographic they have to make. And then there's another quiz for them to make sure that they're understanding this stuff. And then we go on to ecology. And that will take us a couple weeks to get through this. And then in ecology, same concept. We have 3 levels. Here's everything they need to do. Here's all of the standards written out so they know exactly what they want. Like, I can explain how matter is cycled between organisms in an ecosystem. I can explain, and verbs are bolded. I can explain how carbon is cycled through the spheres and analyze how each sphere impacts ecosystems, right? And these are the spheres they needed to know. And honestly, we go through it all together in our notes. And see, here's my stamp. I put it in here. So you can see that I'll stamp it, and then I'll come in and I'll circle wherever they are. So if they're giving me half-baked answers in here, when I'm looking at it, I'm like, there's like 1, 2 words in here, you're at a 1 or a 2. And it could hold them back. Even if they did all this work and they're not giving me good answers, I will still give them a low grade because they could fix it. And when they fix it, I'll stamp it again up above and give them a full point. All right. And here we have drawings, we have notes, more notes, etc. all the way through here. And it's kind of the same concept. All right. And then there's also here, we have assignments sometimes that we'll do in class, but I don't really care about them writing it down or such, but I was there and I saw them, so I'll stamp their page and I'll say it's fantastic, right? And it's my signature or my stamp approval saying that you were here that day, because I don't want kids just giving themselves points at saying they were here, okay? And then they have another quiz, etc. And it just kind of runs through this all the way through to the end. All right, and when we review, we can literally just go back here and do this. We can review the game, we can talk about our notes, we can do the assignments. So it's just a nice way to organize all of their information, okay? I have another video I'm gonna send about my backboard, which has all of the tracking for these levels. So I actually have it set up in a way where kids can actually move up levels so that I can actually get a glimpse as to how the class is doing in a set in that time frame, okay, of getting it all done before the test, okay? And so I check these books all the time. I don't even collect them. I just walk around and I just look at these books with them and say, hey, you're done. Let's take a look. Let me give me a stamp out. I'll approve it. You're done. Let's move up to the next level. We'll watch this video at the beginning of class next time, but if you want to do the reading, go ahead and start working on it. Start doing the questions. Nothing's stopping you, right? So I kind of let kids go ahead if they need to, but most of the time they don't. Like, it takes all period to get through some of this stuff for them to read and to get through it. And we have great discussions all the way through this. It's just to kind of help guide their learning, and we kind of go through it multiple times through different methods. All right, we do games. We also have other things, and etc. But some of these are a little lengthy, right? Here I don't have enough room, so it's on that page, but they're creating a conservation ad. And so, but if they ask me what they want on their test, it's all here. It's listed out in levels. And then the goal is by the end of the year, we can have a review time with our final test, and then we can go through everything we talked about, all the main concepts, and we'll check them off as we go and saying, all right, we'll talk about all these concepts, and then we'll do an assignment that day, maybe Jeopardy or something, and then I'll stamp it, etc., all the way to the end of the year. So we can review for our final test. Okay, if you have questions about this, let me know. I've put a lot of effort into this. A lot of thoughts gone into it. And I even have models and things of how to do things correctly throughout. If you have questions, please let me know. Is there anything else I can say? But it's here for them. They can it's their grade. They own it, and they can move their grades at any time, and they can fix almost everything. But I still expect them to come prepared when we do take tests. So, all right. I'll make a separate video for my chemistry, because chemistry is actually taught differently than biology. This is more of a sophomore subject. This is a junior subject, and it is more challenging. It's going to be harder, okay? Oh, and also one last thing, let me show you this. I have a rubric for grading, like for corrections, like this one, and it helps me see where kids are. So if someone got a 3.2 on, there's 3.5 on the test, right? They're going to be at an A-. But if they do a correction, they'll be in the dark blue, meaning they got an A. So it kind of helps me know where kids are, and I can quickly give them correction points. So if they turn their correction into me, it has to be entirely done, and I'll be like, all right, on your test you got a 3, I'm going to bump your score to a 3.25. So it's a quick grade adjustment. I don't have to go in and add points. I just go on their grade, and I literally just put in 3.25. I re-enter the score, right? And if it's in the red here, they're not getting a C. So if you got all the way down to a 1.8 on the test, like you bombed it. But if you do a correction, you'll be back in the C range. So anything in red, it's below a C. Everything in dark blue is going to be an A, and then everything here is going to be an A- range. Everything that's white is kind of a B or C. So I can quickly analyze a kid's grade. So if they tell me, hey, Mr. Flynn, I got a 3.2. If I do a correction, what's the highest grade I can get? Well, you can get a 3.4, right? You're in the A- range. You're now entering A territory. But if you work on your other assignments and get them all in, you might be able to even bump your grade up more. But this is just for tests. So it's a quick way for me to analyze and change grades, and it makes grading very quick, because I only put in 1 grade per section, like right here on science skills. I will add these up, so it's gonna be 12 points, and I just put it in out of 12. So they got 3s, they got 9 out of 12, they got 75%. And so that's just how I do it. I don't put individual grades in the computer. I just say unit 0 is worth 12 points. How'd you do? That's all it is. So I put in 1 grade. Basically, the rest of the grades are automatic, and then I just take their corrections and put them in later. But it's pretty easy grading. I only grade when they're taking their tests. So anyway, okay, thanks.